right, today we're going to try and install the Fortune Auto 500 series coilovers on the Fit. Long story short, the Fit started making noise maybe like 5,000 miles ago. Orange Springs kind of ruined stock struts over time anyways. Saw this coming, so I said screw it. This is my reliable daily driver and I want to make it pretty comfortable yet handle pretty good when I want it to. I did do a track day with these maybe a week or two ago and definitely handled good for what they were, but the coilovers I went with stiffer rears. Anyways, let me show you guys the Fortunes. Obviously the typical Fortune Auto green. This should be one of the fronts. But yeah, looks great. I got 7K fronts, 9K rears. Everything's kind of loose, so I may have to give them a call unless they got instructions in here. So I'll figure that out in a few, but that's the front. Let me see if I can find one in the back. Well, I guess I gotta unwrap them. This is the old stuff. I may reuse that, not entirely sure, but as far as going with this, we are basically gonna be setting the preload as it sits on the car. Rear divorce, we don't have to worry about it. I called Fortune, looks like they want 1/8 of an inch compression and then tightens. So you got everything. You got a little certificate, stickers, you got your adjustment wrenches. Stock ones were actually kind of shot, so it's cool that they include the end links, new end links for you. And so rear, it's got a note that says make sure you have the perch inserted, so just like that basically, so it won't like slide around or anything. And then we're gonna do the left front first, whatever the brake line matches up with. Do that. We're gonna adjust the preload, put the camber bolts in and tighten everything up front. And then for the rear should be pretty simple, so let's go. What I'm gonna do first is jack up this side first, and we are going to put the jack stand so we can do both sides. I do like how these sit, so I'm gonna probably get them just about the same height. It looks perfect. It's for springs. I mean, I think they sit perfectly. I do have double camber bolts up front and it's actually tucking pretty nicely. Anyways, let me get this side jacked up and we're gonna start tearing her apart. Okay, car is jacked up. We've got the wheels off. Just did pretty much like a quick glance. Let me go with the fronts first. So the fronts, you've obviously I've got dual camber bolts. I've got one track day on these and they did perfectly fine, no movement at all. Basically, you've got the arrows on each bolt. I have the part number for the SBC bolts. I bought these off of Tire Rack. You've got the tab that gives you max camber and you want the arrow facing the tab on top. And then for the max camber on the bottom, you want the arrow facing towards this tab on the outside towards the wheel, because you want the tops, you want the top in, but then to have the best camber, you want the bottom out as well. If it's a straight line, you want it like this, so therefore the bottom will stick out. So you've got nut here holding the sway bar and link here. You've got to get a little hex bit there and then release that nut with a wrench probably. And then you've got the brake line, the ABS sensor here. This probably just pops out. These two strut bolts to be able to get camber. And then that should be it holding it in. You probably want the jack underneath so you don't screw anything else up, like pop out that, axle boot or something if it swings down too low. And then for the top, I'm gonna be removing this thing. Probably takes like 5 minutes. So remove the wipers, remove the cowl, just so you got to do the plugs on both sides. It's pretty simple. You gotta just remove the wipers. Then you got to remove these side little clips here to take this out. And you've got like a couple 10 mils. When I get there, I'll show you guys, but yeah, let's do it. Okay guys, pop the side off, got the wipers off, and then over here you've got one tab going to that. Mine didn't have it, so it just came out. And then I do remember this side, I did zip tie temporarily and I completely forgot about it. So that's the next one, and then this side should pop out as well. So we're gonna have to take the whole motor assembly, this whole thing off too. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have to probably not remove the bottom shield. That's what I have to do for the plugs, but literally just these probably 10 mils right here. Remove those 3 and that one over there. And then this whole thing should pop out. Well, I was able to take this whole thing off with just those 4 10 mils. So I literally thought there was some other stuff attached to it, but not really. get that off, and then literally all we have to do is get that connector off and then get these bolts off, and that should be the front. That's literally it. So cool, let's do that and see where we're at there. So needed a 6mm hex, so that goes in the slot. You try and hold that, and then you've got the wrench, and you just loosen righty tighty, lefty loosey, obviously. So that's loose, nice and loose there. Take that off, and that should free up the top. This is what came off of it. You've got the, I guess, a top hat thing, like a rubber bushing top hat, and then you've got the nut. Underneath the nut, you've got the washer. So try and keep that intact. The last thing to do is let's just get the bottom out. You've got to get, so the same deal with the top. You're gonna have to get a little hex drive in there so you can get this loosed and take that off. And then take these two off, free up the ABS sensor, and oh yeah, we've got to take off the brake line here as well, so remove that, and that should be it. All right guys, here's the stock assembly. Don't make my mistake, and I took out the other side without even taking a look, but just as a reference, looks like this sits in this cup, and the bushing is what keeps the whole thing from coming up. Basically gonna have to do that on the other side we just did, now that I have a reference, and go from there. I finally have the order here. This took a ridiculous amount of time to figure out, but finally got it. So we got the spring, we got the spring perch here. Sorry, the lens is a little dirty. Okay, and then you've got the shock thing right here, the collar. And then you've got to put the spacer in right there, and then you put the bushing in from the stock shock. Sits right in there, and then what you want to do is you want to tighten this down. Okay, tighten it down.
Okay.
And then you've got the rubber bushing right here. Boom, just like that, so it sits perfectly. And then, you know, don't forget to tighten on that nut right there. We'll do that in a few. And then up top, you put it in. Then from up top, you've got the washer thing, whatever you call this, that'll sit up top. Then you got the washer and then a nut. So once you get that in, I'll show you guys the final result. The top one has like a slot in it already. You can kind of see, well, I guess you can't now, but let me go to the other side. So you should be able to use an OEM bolt if you want to feel a little better. I'm gonna think about this. I'm not entirely sure because I do have the SPC adjustable ones, so I'm wondering if it will give me even more. We'll see. I don't need that much more camber, but I guess it would feel better if I use like a OEM one and then the SPC one, but people track both without any issues. So right now I just have the bottom set to the max, and then the other side went in just fine, so I'm just gonna keep running it. I'm gonna adjust it once I get the top bolted in properly. What you want to do is, or I guess what I'm doing is I'm measuring from the top, very top of the shock. Actually, I'm just measuring it from the top of the perch to the bottom, and we're looking at just about 7 from the top of the perch. So since we're gonna go quarter down, we're gonna go to 7 3/4. And then the rear, you've got it's a divorce setup. So you've got the strut here, springs in there. That's the Monzo springs, by the way. And so you've got one bolt and nut in the bottom here. And then, so you remove that, and then you've got a couple bolts up there, and that should be it. To remove the spring, I think the whole beam actually should go down enough to remove the spring. I've got to double check. But let's see, the strut bolts are pretty accessible. I think all you gotta do is just remove these. There we go, perfect. So got that nut there as well. It's kind of funny because I'm used to like 240s and ISs where they've got like 3 bolts on each, but this one only seems to have one giant one. It'll be straightforward, and at least that strut will come out. I will figure out the spring once I remove that. So Such a pain in the butt. But you've got, like I said again, you get the washer, rubber bushing first. I didn't even see it earlier, stuck on these stock ones. And then you've got obviously the string and the preload set to an 1/8 compression. And then you've got the other bushing plus the spacer, washer, and the nut. Same thing on this side. You got the bushing, washer, nut. And underneath, we've got the bushing washer. Cool. Still not happy that I can't torque these to spec, but they, according to them, just do a couple of that. It should be tight. So pretty much just going to start compressing the spring by spinning clockwise. You can see it's going down, and we are seeing that it's starting to compress. But basically just get it to where it doesn't move. Kind of get it to where it's like compressed so you can measure. Let me see. Yeah, that's about good. So now I'm gonna put this up top. And I'm going to measure from the top. Yeah, it was about 7 inches, so we're going to compress to 6 7/8. That should be 1/8 less from there. And then do the same as that side, and we'll just save the time, skip forward. Cool. All right, and this is the passenger side now. It's about, yep, about the same, 13 3/4, just about. So yeah, 13 3/4 length from the top up here all the way to the bottom right here. So that should be about set. So let's tighten everything down, and I got to do the paint mark to the other side, tighten the collar, and then I'm gonna put the wheels on and drop it. All right, guys, so this is how she sits before the lowering springs from Fortune that they sent me. Obviously the front's pretty screwed up, but the rear, man, just look at how much gap I got, man. It's terrible. More than, I got like 3-finger gap, bro. It's horrible. It's terrible, both sides. The front right I got right though, but sheesh, man, look at that. So I'm hoping the springs they sent me, they are 6 inches, so I guess an inch lower. They said they can't go any lower than that, but we'll see how these sit compared to the 7 inches with preload. They said I could like get rid of all the bushing and stuff. I don't think I want to do that, but we'll see. I mean, worst case scenario, I'm gonna have to put it on the spring perches, or take it off the perch and just put the spring on there. But God, I also got to fix the rear. I put the adjustables on top, so let's do that. Let's check out the rear and see what she does. Okay, guys, so like I said earlier, looks like according to them, I have it upside down. I'm jacking up the rear beam here on the left side, taking some tension off of this bolt so I can get this bolt off, and I can lower the beam on this side. Do the same on that side so I can remove the spring perch and the spring. Put these 6-inch ones in and just see how they go. So don't forget to reset the preload, which I'll do as well, but let's do that. Okay, so a little side-by-side here. 1 inch lower, a couple coils worth, so not too bad. They said you could just put it on the actual perch inside there. So let's see how that kind of works. I don't even know if it's gonna jiggle around. Yeah, I mean, it'll work. I just don't like that it's like centered, you know? It's just, you know, it'll sit there. Okay guys, couples test fits, and the shocks were maxed out, and I still have wheel room on the spring, so I didn't like that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to try again. Yeah, the little rubber that goes on top. So I tried the bottoms didn't fit right, so these actually were originally on top, so now I'm gonna put them on the bottom and go from there. All right guys, this is maxed out, no more turning. And then I'm gonna show you guys just how much room we're working with here. So got no compression at the moment, so pretty loose. Okay, and then we're gonna jack it up. Okay, now got a little bit left. All right, now I think it's fully compressed, and it's got a little bit of tension. We got no movement. The But yeah, I got the perch in there, and then looks like we are just shy of being aligned, so I think we're good. Like I said, maxed out on both sides shock wise, and then we've got this compressed, and we've got a little bit more height. So let me raise a little bit more so we get it aligned. There we go, should be good. Okay, and put the bolt through. Make sure you hand thread these in. Kind of hard to ruin these though, they're tapered. Cool. And then we'll just bring this set back, tighten that up, and then we're gonna put the wheels on and see where she sits after all this. Kind of concerning there, because these are $1,500 coilovers and I have barely any adjustability. So yeah, this is dope. But anyways, let's just see how they sit. They might sit perfectly, which will be amazing. So well, at least it's bearable now, I guess. I mean, you know, not quite where I wanted to, but it'll maybe settle. At least it's a little less than 2 fingers now. Like, I can't get both straight, so okay, we'll work with it. Let's get the whole car squared up. Obviously the front left is really jacked up, so we're going to have to raise that a couple inches, and then the front right passenger side, I do like the height. However, to be able to match the rear, let's raise 2 inches on this side, start with that, and then on this side we'll make it even. So 2 inches on this side, measure, match it up on this side, then we're going to adjust the toe a little bit, to at least be able to be drivable to break in the suspension. So cool. This part might be a little tedious, a lot of, you know, adjustments, measuring, then put the car on the ground, see what it looks like. But I did say I wanted to raise it 2 inches. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure from the top of the perch to the top of the collar. So that is, we are at about 3 1/4 inches, just about. So yeah, right there, 3 1/4. So we want to raise it 2 inches, so we're going to go up and raise that gap to 5 1/4. I got to loosen this little hex here, then loosen this up, and then you got to turn this whole shock so that the distance between here and here is 2 more inches. Let's do that. Gonna have to spin it the counterclockwise way here, and the full shock will turn. You can set it just fine. So 2 hands, a lot easier, but yeah, so keep spinning it, measure, spin it, measure till it's about 2 inches. Okay guys, think we got it. Let's see, 5 1/4. So I'm gonna do the same to the other side. I pretty sure this is how you're supposed to do it. I just use like a handheld tool and a hammer and just pretty much tap the collar tight. Not gonna tighten everything yet because I don't know if this is the height we want, but gotta adjust the toe as well. However, we gotta make sure that the height is good, and then we can get everything tight, mark everything, and then I can pretty much just adjust the toe by eye. So let's go to the other side, do the same thing on the other side. We're gonna do 5 1/4, and then we're gonna put the wheels on, drop the car, see how she looks. Okay, so after a couple trial and errors, 4 1/4 was way too much, so went down about an inch. So went, oh, I'm sorry, 5 1/4, so went down to 4 1/4, but that was still, I wanted a little bit lower, so now I'm going down to 3 3/4, about half an inch from that. So 3 3/4. Let's see how she looks on both sides. Okay guys, pretty much got the height set. I'll show you guys once I get the car on the ground. But now what we're gonna do is we're gonna adjust the tie rods for some toe out. Debating if I want to connect the end links. People say it handles a little better, some people say it ruins turn in. So, but before we do that, I'm going to just go ahead and adjust the tie rods. So we're gonna go toe out. As you can see, it's nicely towed in on that side. This side, it's not too bad. I'll definitely toe out a little bit. But yeah, this side is very towed in. You can see, and my steering wheel is straight. So yeah. Okay guys, used a wrench, adjustable wrench in a 19 to loosen it. You gotta pull it down towards the engine to get it loose. And now I'm using a 14 here. There we go. And I'm going to adjust it outward. I think we're going out towards the back, I think, is what moves it. Let's see. Hard to tell. But yeah, I'll adjust it out. We're going to tow out and see what it looks like. Okay, guys, after we set the tow and everything, last thing I'm doing is the end links. I don't think it really matters the order here, but loosen the top. I'm going to feed the top in and drop it apparently. Okay. Feed the top just like that. Put the nut in here. I'm kind of concerned because there is no hex drive to keep it from spinning, so. Okay, and then I'm going to loosen completely as far down as possible so I can get this bottom one in. So we got it in place. Get that nut in. Okay. I don't have any way to kind of lock this in place, so did the same thing. Did a little burp on both. Get them nice and tight. Gonna mark them in a minute. But yeah, as you can see now, we kind of have adjustability. So I think what we need to do is, once I tighten everything down, put the wheels on, then put wheel ramps underneath. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to let the suspension kind of settle, and then basically I think the rule of thumb is get it to where it barely has any resistance, tighten it down, then it should be set properly, I believe. So car's on the wheel ramps, reverse just because of the jack stands, whatever. All right, so I pretty much lowered it till there was like a sweet spot on both sides where I could literally just spin them by finger tight really easy. I think this is pretty much where it's supposed to sit, because any more and it starts resisting and all that, so you don't want any tension. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten them right here, and I think that's set. I'm going to do more research. Like I said, I don't know if I'm doing this right, but this is what makes sense in my head. No instructions again. So I'm going to tighten the other side. We'll tighten this down just a little ugga-dugga here in a minute. Let me show you guys the other side. Remember, it's one bar, so if you ended up doing it staggered, it's not going to be right. But this side as well, we've got that little bit of just wiggle room here, nice and free here. So just kind of tighten that, and I think that's where that sway bar is comfortable. Obviously, I don't have my weight in the car, but this is what I can do for now. I don't have like 150 pounds worth of weight just laying around, so here we go. And I think we're good for that test drive. Okay, last thing to do is take the wheel off and tighten these jumps. We got 14 here, and then I used an adjustable right here for the bottom here, and just held the top for the bottom as well. So then the last thing to do is handy dandy paint marker and mark all your marks so you can go back and double check once everything kind of settles in. So don't forget to mark the top nut as well. Cool. I'm gonna mark this straight down. Maybe put on this side to be sure. Same thing here. That's not really straight. Oh my god. Oh, forgot to mark the bottom nut as well. Cool. That is it. So everything's marked. Everything's tight, I'm assuming. So now for the nerve-wracking test drive. Let's do it. Okay, guys. Initial impressions. I definitely went a little on the stiffer side. She a little bouncy. Can feel it definitely in the rear. So I guess what they said does make sense. 9K is a little stiff, which is why I can't really get as much height adjustment in the rear. I guess because it stays up. So oh well. Anyway, the driving initial impressions, freaking dope, dude. I mean, it'll be a night and day, you know, going from springs to coilovers, but the turn in is ridiculous. Seriously, like it doesn't feel flat and unresponsive anymore. Like, let's see, we're gonna go down this road here. Like, it's flat and it's kind of hard. I need like a faster corner to kind of show you guys the initial turn in, but I'm pretty sure you can tell. Here, there's no traffic. Let me show you. You could just, it's kind of hard to see, but as a driver, you can see the nose literally point into the corner, like way better than before. Here, we're coming up on the corner now. Let me see if I can do some outer in. Freaking God, it's so good. The only thing left is really the rear sway bar. I think would really connect the rear, because the front feels fine. I think the end links are properly adjusted for now, but yeah, even with an eyeball alignment, dude, the freaking turn in is ridiculous. If I can, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but you can literally see the car shift like this. It literally turns into the corner. It's ridiculous. But yeah, anyways, sorry for the little rant. But yeah, great. It's great. Feels great. Like I said, on the stiffer side, but it's okay. It doesn't really bother me too much. I guess it'll be nice when I have like passengers in the rear. Another thing is, I guess with a little bit higher than before, just maybe like half an inch or less. Definitely not rubbing at all anymore, which is really freaking refreshing. You know, bang for your buck. Maybe not this setup that I have for what it is and what you know, the deal I got for them through somebody. I can't really be too mad, especially, you know, they sent me free springs. So I guess I'll do kind of a more direct impression once these kind of break in and I get a full alignment. Hopefully maybe it'll settle down at maybe a 1/4 inch. You know, I'd be happy with that, but I'm not too mad about where it's at. Yes, I don't have any adjustability, but I don't plan to raise it or lower it ever. So, you know, and I don't think I'll go down to 15s. If I do, that's when I'm gonna have issues. But anyways, let me skip forward to whenever I get it aligned and everything's set up. Cool. Okay, so it's been about 2 weeks since install. Maybe a little under 1,000 miles, and just want to say I think it broke in just enough to where I'm happy where it sits and it's not entirely too stiff. I did just get an alignment probably 4 days ago, and while I was there, I wasn't too far from the Fortuner headquarters in Powhatan, so I pretty much got alignment down there, and then stopped by just to get a second opinion, and make sure I did install them right, because of how much of a pain they were. And I thought the car was a little more bouncy, but I had a guy there that I know, Devin Herndon. I think he's the motorsport coordinator as of now. He dailies a fit with 510s on it as well, and he drove it. He said this feels just fine, because the springs were rated at 9K. I learned that they're 9K, but the actual strut, the guy that I'd ordered through had him up to 11, so that's why it's so stiff. I didn't know, but I'll be honest with you, it doesn't feel that much different from Devin's freaking Honda Fit, because he's running, I think, 4K in the rear. I don't remember his fronts. It might have been 6, but it was like slightly more comfortable, but it wasn't that much of a difference for being technically 5K difference, you know. So I was genuinely surprised. But right now I'm going through some twisties just to get like a final impression. Absolutely the same, you know, the same specs. I know I'm running a 6K spring now, but my shocks are still rated for 11. So, you know, the woof, that felt good. Going from the 9K to the 6K was more so for height. Honestly, like I said, after about 2 weeks of driving, it's harsh, but it's not that bad. It really isn't. And, you know, it doesn't help that the fit is a, you know, like a torsion beam set up in the back. You know, the rear is completely attached to both sides, so it's not that forgiving anyways. Let's take some of these more corners here. I'm hoping the dash cam can show the turn-in is so ridiculous. Let's go a little bit faster here. Sharp turn coming up. Let's see what she does. I will say though, the speeds that I can carry through the corner are way like higher now for sure. Because before it was a lot more flat and like no turn in, no nothing. It was just like a flat, you know, curvature. Here we go. This is the good one. Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh. No problem. Didn't have to slow down at the corner at all. Turned in great. Before it was just flat, like, all right, it's turning, but it felt like the tires were doing more of the work than the suspension, if that makes sense. But now it feels like everything's working together. I'm I'm running Continental DW6 Plus or something like that. They freaking handle amazing. Couple that with the freaking suspension, the coilovers, and dude, the car drives so good. Really fun. Like I said before, the only thing's missing is power, but it's okay because I need it to be my gas saver car. Oh, another thing is I don't rub at all. I'm sure you saw that corner, you know, didn't rub at all. I'm running, I believe, 2.5 up front camber, 0 toe, and then the rear is not adjustable, but I think the rears are like -1 as it is because you're lowering a stock setup that you can't adjust. -1 to a toe in of 0.2 or some 0.3 maybe, which my buddy that did the alignment said it's not really too crazy, so I wouldn't have to worry about it. Just rotate my tires probably every oil change, probably a good idea. But thank you for watching. Hopefully this video helped. I know I couldn't really show every part, but hopefully I explained it just enough to be able to follow and do what other videos didn't help me do. So cool. Any questions or comments, concerns, let me know. Again, thank you for watching. Take care.